the real estate market is definitely changing. Due to more uncertainty in the economy, currently buyers are holding back on their purchases, even though we have more listings for sale than we have seen in years. So let's now talk about the key indicators of a buyer's market. So first of all, as we discussed, that means high inventory, 6 months or more. Now, outside of Detroit condos, I have not found a local Southeast Michigan market where it has converted from a seller's market to a buyer's market, not yet at least. To give you an idea of the last really severe buyer's market that we have to go back to the Great Recession. In mid-2007, we had 19 plus months of inventory starting towards mid to the end of 2007. Now, I know most of you, if you're watching nationally, you're saying, but the Great Recession didn't start until 2008. It started in 2007 in Metro Detroit and Detroit. So as of a result of that insane amount of inventory on the market, prices plummeted, as we all know. And we didn't move back into a balanced market, which is between 4 and 6 months of inventory, until about the end of 2011. The next key indicator is prices flat or declining. Price reductions are very common in a buyer's market. So far, even though we are moving from a seller's market into a more balanced market, the average home value for our MLS system is still $20,000 higher, the average home price, than this time last year. So prices are probably going to start coming down, but they're up since last year. The next key indicator, longer days on market. Now, the days on market in the Southeast Michigan average has only gone up a few days since last month, about 34 days on market, which is about the same from about a year ago. So far, we have not seen in September 2025 a huge difference in the days on market. Next indicator is frequent price reductions and home selling for below list price. This is quite normal in our market currently. But in our MLS, if you look at the list to sell ratio, which means what percentage of the list price did the property actually sell, as far as the average, I'm not seeing any less than 96% in the last year. Now, in this graph, if you look at mid-2022, that's when you saw over 100%. That's when people were bidding above the asking price. But it doesn't seem like on average that is happening anymore. The last key indicator of a buyer's market is sellers offering concessions or to pay for closing costs or repairs. This is more common when there is no competition to buy a home. Buyers can not only negotiate seller paid closing costs, their closing costs at the time of offer, but they can also negotiate repairs and other closing costs to be paid after the home inspection. Sellers definitely do not have the leverage during a home inspection anymore because they know that another offer may not likely be waiting around the corner, so best to work with the one that you have. So let's talk briefly about how that compares to a seller's market. This is when there are more buyers than there are homes actually available to buy. We saw this during the post-COVID reshuffling. At that time, sellers were able to choose from multiple offers and have unreasonable negotiations, if you ask me, because there was always another buyer ready to step in if the first buyer changed their mind or didn't want to agree to something that the seller wanted. At that time, buyers were willing to forego inspections, pay more than the asking price, eliminate mortgage contingencies, and do whatever it took just to get the house. They were cashing in their 401ks so they could pay for a cash offer. Think of it like a concert with only a few tickets left. People are willing to pay more to the scalpers right outside the concert venue just to get in. Now let's talk about the key indicators of a seller's market. Low inventory. 3 months or under is a seller's market by definition, but definitely up to 4 months of inventory. Southeast Michigan, in most submarkets, is still a softening seller's market, creeping up to about 3 months, and in some submarkets, up to 4, as we saw in Royal Oak. Next key indicator, prices rising quickly. Now, because we are a softening seller's market, this is starting to turn as buyers are usually able to negotiate under the asking price, and sellers do not have the luxury of pricing their property higher than the last sale in the neighborhood. Now you price it lower than the last sale in the neighborhood just to make sure it sells and get the buyer's attention. Next key indicator of a seller's market, shorter time on market. Homes were selling in days, if not hours. Now that is softening. Buyers are taking more time to buy a home, so that can often mean properties stay on the market up to a week, maybe two before they get under contract. That's pretty average these days. Next key indicator, multiple offers and bidding wars. Gone are the days of 20 plus bids coming in for one property. For a popular property, you still might see 2 to 5, but definitely not the insane amount of double digits that we were seeing in the post-COVID years. Another key indicator is that sellers are rarely willing to offer seller concessions or seller paid buyer closing costs. And the last key indicator, houses selling above the asking price. We still see that a little bit today, but I think that tends to be more agents listing their homes strategically under the market value so that buyers will bid the property up. Lastly, let's talk about what a balanced market is, because we are heading into one pretty soon. A balanced market is between 4 to 6 months of current inventory. Neither buyers nor sellers have a strong advantage. Now, what I would say right now is buyers are either interested in diamonds or deals. A diamond is a beautifully maintained, beautifully designed and updated property, well staged, nicely furnished, kept in good shape, and beautifully presented. Buyers will still scramble to pay more for a property that fits that description in a desirable neighborhood. Anything besides that, they want a deal. So this is the calm middle ground. Fair negotiations, reasonable timelines, no frantic running and scrambling, more stable pricing. Why does this matter for you? If you're a buyer, you know when you need to negotiate and you know when you need to act fast. If you're a seller, this will help you know when you should expect multiple offers and stand firm, and when you might need to sweeten the deal. Here in Metro Detroit, we are still seeing buyers that are willing to compete for a diamond and otherwise wait for a deal. In summary, the market is always shifting. We spent a long time, several years in a seller's market, and before that, very much a balanced market post-Great Recession. If you're wondering what type of market we are in right now for your specific submarket, the type of home you want to buy, the specific neighborhood, area, and price point, and what it means for your goals, let's connect. I'll walk you through the numbers so you can make the best move. Thanks so much for watching. If you are getting value from my videos, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. See you on the next one.